Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming here, for being with us today. My name is Salma Sabour. In today's session, I will be facilitating the discussion about African heritage, vulnerability to climate change, and explore possibilities of adaptation and resilience of the heritage sector. The session will also explore learnings and lessons from the heritage sector towards a resilient and just future. I'm personally a climate and heritage researcher working on heritage and climate change. I'm doing a postdoc right now in the University of Southampton, and I'm the dissemination manager of the Climate Vulnerability Index Africa at the Climate Heritage Network. And I'm really delighted to be hosting this event today. So first, I would like to warmly welcome all the participants and our panel. And thank all our collaborators, contributors, and funders who have supported our presence here. And special thanks to the Climate Heritage Networks. As you know, in many regions in Africa, climate change is a major threat to life and livelihoods. And many heritage and World Heritage properties are already experiencing impacts from climate change hazards, such as extreme heat waves, change in precipitation patterns, and flooding for intense storms. There's a high confidence today that African human and natural systems are already being affected by climate change, and future impacts are expected to be substantial, including Africa's diverse and unique cultural, natural, and biocultural heritage. Yet, knowledge about the impacts of climate change on Africa has been severely limited and still is severely limited by limited data and inequitable arrangement of climate change research and finance. Further, this has translated into neglect of heritage-focused climate change research on Africa and action. So we're going to be presenting lessons from different vulnerability assessments conducted in heritage sites in Africa, including the Climate Vulnerability Index projects. And I'm going to present quickly our speakers. So with us, Mbogela Mercy. Mercy is the site manager of the ruins of Kilwa Kiliswani and the ruin of Sangomnara World Heritage Sites. She holds a Bachelor on History and Archaeology and a Master in Tourism and Management Planning. She is currently working on conserving and protecting the archaeological site of Kilwa Kisiwani. She oversees the implementation of the rehabilitation of the stairs of Husunu Kubwa Palace built by Sultan al-Hassan. And she has been working with Climate Heritage on the EDGE program, the Climate Heritage Network, and CVI project. We also have with us Simon Musasizi. Simon is the Heritage Trust. He is part of the Heritage Trust Program Manager with the Cross-Cultural Foundation of Uganda, a non-governmental organization focused on mainstreaming culture in development. His post bestows on him the responsibility of laying the foundation of the establishment of a national trust for Uganda to champion the cause for safeguarding historic and natural sites in Uganda. Among his flagship projects has been the melting snow and river in floods, mitigating the impacts of a warming climate on Uganda's heritage. Simon was a journalist with the Observer newspaper for about a decade before his job. This is where his passion for heritage tourism, conservation, arts, and culture issues was nurtured and honed. With us also, Daniel Ishawa. Daniel works with the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Nigeria. He's the site manager of Rabi Fort, Dikwa, a heritage site faced with mixed climate change and Boko Haram insurgency. He's one of the 6 African heritage professionals that's undergone CVI Africa training course on climate change and cultural heritage. He also researched and documented about 16 heritage sites for enlistment into Nigeria's National Heritage List to be declared as national monuments. He's also an active member of ICOMOS Nigeria. With us also, Ibrahim Chan. He is a Beninese jurist specializing in cultural heritage. He's also the director and the co-founder of the Tata Somba Eco Museum, the first ecological museum in West Africa. Chan is also a steering committee member of the Climate Heritage Network and serves as the Africa region representative within the Climate Heritage Network Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction. Ibrahim also works on the traditional techniques and construction material used in Tata Samba architecture. He is active in projects involving the participation of local communities and designed a didactic tool called Comp Art that educates children on African world heritage. We will also have with us two of our online speakers, but I'm going to wait for them to join to present them to you. Today we also have a cartoonist present in our session, Rohan Chakravarti, who's an Indian artist, cartoonist, illustrator, and naturalist. His Green Humor series was picked up by Go Comics in 2013, making Rohan the first Indian cartoonist to be picked by a global comic distributor. He's going to be making comics during the session and presenting them at the end of the session. So, hey Rohan, nice to see you. Thank you very much for being here with us. So we're going to start the session with Mercy, who's going to share with us her experience as a female World Heritage Manager in Tanzania.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this important session. I'm Mercy Mbogela, a site manager for the ruins of Kilwa Kisiwani and the ruins of Songo Mnara World Heritage Site in Tanzania. I'm in front of you to present the importance of including local and indigenous intangible values in climate change vulnerability assessment, the case of ruins of Kilwa Kisiwani and the ruins of Songo Mnara World Heritage Site. So, in the outline, I will brief on historical background of Kilwa Kisiwani and Songo Mnara, the climate changes and its impacts to the monuments, vulnerability, how the monument impacted with those changes, then the importance of including the local and the indigenous intangible values in climate change vulnerability assessment of Kilwa Kisiwani and Songo Mnara. Then I will explain about the positive climate action and the adaptation measures we took for achieving the resilience in cultural heritage sites of Kilwa. And then the key message from myself. So, about Kilwa Kisiwani. Ruins of Kilwa Kisiwani and Songo Mnara is an historical and archaeological site which is located in the southern coast of Tanzania. It is found in Kilwa district, Lindi region. Is one of the 7 World Heritage sites that we have in our country. And it evidences the magnificent and envied city in the past. Kilwa is now a peaceful island marked the impressive ruins, the historical building which we have over there. The writing in 1332, almost 14 years, the Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta noted that the city of Kilwa is among the most beautiful cities and elegant built at that period. So, in 1981, Kilwa was inscribed as the World Heritage Site under criteria number 3, which recognized the site as bearing a unique and at least exceptional testimony to a cultural tradition or to a civilization which is living or which is disturbed. So, climate changes and its impacts to the monument of Kilwa Kisiwani. Most of the threats, the climate changes in Kilwa is observed through the many factors such as intense precipitation events, sea level rise, and coastal erosion. As apart from the intensive precipitation, the rain erosion on the monument surface cause infiltration, particularly at the monument which are there without the roofs. But to the sea level rise, you can see we have most of the monuments which are located along the sea, along the coastal areas, like that one. Inside we have the Great Mosque, which constructed in 11th century. We have also the Kilwa Fort, Malindi Mosque. All these monuments and the palace of Husuni Kubwa are located along the coastal area. This is Malindi Mosque. So you can see how this monument are impacted with climate changes due to high sea level, the rise of sea level, but sometimes strong wave action, which goes directly to the monument, as some of the archaeological materials down to the ocean, as you see there. So what is some mitigation measures we already took so as to rescue these monuments is construction of gabion walls construction of gabion walls like what you see here, so as to protect from wave action, but also plantation of mangrove trees. As you see here, this is how we plant mangrove seeds. Then after 1 month, we have tried to plant these mangrove trees to the open areas where you can find the monuments which are located along the coastal areas. So, okay, thank you. I will go to the key message. I have a lot of things to tell, but my time. So, the key message. Cultural and natural heritage sites, including World Heritage properties, can serve as a refuge, strengthening resilience for communities during and after climate-related emergencies, and can also act as an asset for recovery in the wake of intercommunal conflict linked to climate change. Our government needs to ensure the inclusion of culture in decision-making process related to climate change, but also to incorporate climate change agenda in both the cultural and the natural heritage policies, as well as to increase the fund for adaptation measures for the agenda of climate change in heritage sites. This is in English, then in my Swahili language. Maeneo ya urithi wa kitamaduni na asili, maeneo ya urithi wa dunia yakijumuishwa yanaweza kutumika kama kimbilio la kuimarisha ustahimilivu kwa jamii wakati na baada ya dharura zinazohusiana na mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi, na pia yanaweza kufanyika kama mali ya kurejeshea kutokana na mizozo ya kijamii inayohusishwa na mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi. Serikali yetu inahitaji kuhakikisha inaingiza masuala ya utamaduni katika michakato ya kufanya maamuzi yanayohusiana na mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi, lakini pia kuingiza ajenda ya mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi katika sera zote za urithi wa tamaduni na ule urithi wa asili, na pia kwa kuongezea fedha za kutosha mfuko wa kukabiliana na changamoto zitokanazo na ajenda ya mabadiliko ya tabia ya nchi kwenye rasilimali za urithi. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mercy. Thank you for bringing your language and for sharing your thoughts in languages that are not spoken in this COP27. I just would like to point out how heritage managers are now dealing with coastal erosion, working on coastal planning that they have never been trained to. And these are parts of how they are becoming resilient and adapting and learning, but this is really, really challenging. Mercy is also using other approaches to share about their heritage, and I would like our team to put the video, Mercy's video, if that's possible, to share with everyone. Is there some issues? Oh, we can try to put it later on. I'll send you another. Okay, we can put another one. I'll give you another one. While we can come back to another heritage manager in Uganda, Simon. Could you please join us and share with us?
Reduce a bit to fit. Yeah, Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, my name is Simon Musasize. I work with the Cross Culture Foundation of Uganda. It's an non-government organization that works in Uganda. I don't know if there are people who are hearing about Uganda for the first time. No. Okay, beautiful. So it's in East Africa. We work to ensure that culture is integrated in development. And we work on 3 program areas. I will just speak about them briefly. One is on cultural rights promotion, where we support the realization of the cultural rights of all Ugandans, especially the indigenous minority groups. The other day I was excited to see the Amazon people, and I was relating back because we also have the same forum for indigenous people. The other program area is on managing cultural diversity, where we try to promote the coexistence of the different ethnic groups in Uganda. Our constitution recognizes 65 ethnic groups, but we have many others that are not actually recognized in the constitution. The last program is on cultural heritage promotion and safeguarding. Here we support young people to appreciate their culture, because we know that with the Western influence, globalization and so on, young people think culture is the past. It's something that keeps you in the past. So we have heritage clubs in schools. We support community museums for the communities to be able to archive and showcase their culture. And then we do a lot of advocacy work on historic buildings and so on. In that particular area is where we do work on climate change and its impact on heritage resources. Sorry, I'll get to the pictures. I'll get to the pictures, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background first. Because Uganda is categorized as one of the most vulnerable countries due to climate change. Disasters such as floods and drought. It's actually ranked 14th among the most vulnerable countries. And the 48th least ready to address, to mitigate the impact of climate change. So it's very important that from the culture background, we made our interventions using the program areas that I've mentioned up there. But particularly for this one, I'll focus on our work with the communities in the Rwenzori Mountains National Park. It's a World Heritage Site, and we've been working with the communities around that national park to be able to think of the way of life, how they used to live, to be able to mitigate against the impact of climate change. Rwenzori is the third highest point on Africa. It's where you can find, one of the few places where you can find snow on the equator. Statistics that we have is that snow has been reducing over the years because of global warming, from 7.5 square kilometers to now less than about 1.5 square kilometers. And according to the Uganda Wildlife Authority, which is the government body that manages the national parks, which the Rwenzori is one of them, they say the receding snow has formed over 20 lakes on the top of the mountain. And actually, I asked one of them, the size of one lake is, you compare it to 4 football pitches. You know these soccer pitches? 4 of them. So imagine on the top of the mountain, you have one lake the size of 4 football pitches. So there are over 20 lakes on the top of the mountains, and they are sustaining several rivers running down. So what happened in 2012, we had unprecedented fire that we had never thought about, going as high as 4,000 meters above sea level. We had never heard about this. So it burnt about 4,000 hectares of forest. So it's the forests that have been trying to hold the rivers from coming with huge force coming up. So what is happening of recent, they can show you on the pictures before I get to that one. This is what is happening. The rivers are coming down with huge boulders, sweeping everything. And among the things that have swept is an entire town. If you can search for Kilembe town, it was the 3rd largest town in the 60s in Uganda. It was swept completely. It was swept, schools, villages. So this is what is happening. But a lot of time when this happens, a lot of attention is on how many people have lost their lives, how many property have been lost. But we don't pay attention to the culture, people's culture that is being affected. So in 2020, with the support of the British Council in partnership with our partnership with the International National Trust Organization, we thought of a project, what we call the melting snows and rivers in floods. So we try to work with the communities and try to understand how we can mitigate against the impact of climate change. So what did we do? We started by documenting our cultural resources that are under threat within the national park, but also outside the national park. So we documented that knowledge. And what we can say is that the park is surrounded by different ethnic groups, but we worked with one ethnic group, with the Bakonjo. The Bakonjo have very strong attachment with the snow and water bodies. I hope I'm not being warned. With the snow and water bodies. So what we noticed that with what is happening, the community are moving further away from the water bodies and the snow because of what is happening. And this is having a very great deal on their culture. So, 1 minute, okay. Okay, I'll keep within the 1 minute. So we notice that the local knowledge that people have about the environment is being lost as they move further and further away from their heritage. They also have taboos that they use to be able to respect the environment. They no longer do this. We are seeing them being forced into refugee centers where they cannot practice the indigenous culture. We've seen towns, shanty towns developing. People used to live in the wild in simple life, as you heard the story of the Goodwin yesterday, but now they're being forced to live a different life. We also saw that the local community do a lot of ritual cleansing. Every confluence of rivers, they do a ritual cleansing. But this is not just a ritual. It's a sort of awareness, creating awareness. When the community come together, they are creating awareness that we have a problem, so we need to address it. So, yeah, I'll move fast. Okay, I'll move to the message of the policy, so in the interest of time. So what we are saying to the policymakers is that let us acknowledge that intangible cultural heritage can directly be affected by climate change. And at the same time, it can be a source of resilience. It can help communities to build resilience against climate change. So we need cultural heritage to be integrated in all our mitigation measures. Thank you so much. Oh, in the local language. Thank you so much. I think I have to say it in Luganda. Luganda is the widely spoken language in Uganda, from which Uganda was actually created. Njagala okugamba abafuzi baffe n'abakola amateeka nti enkyukakyuka mu mbeera y'obutonde bw'ensi ekosa ebyobuwangwa byaffe, nga bwekosa ebyobulamu, nga bwekosa ebizimbe byaffe. So kyetaagisa tuteekemu enkola ennungi esobole okuteeka ebyobuwangwa byaffe mu ngeri gye tu addressingamu enkyukakyuka ey'obuwangwa. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you. And it's really incredible to see how challenging it is to already deal with loss of values and to perceive them, but how difficult it is to share them with the world and also to know about how to adapt values to climate change, because today there is nearly no research in this sector, and it is something that needs more effort from researchers and also policymakers in relation to supporting heritage managers in Africa and around the world. We're gonna come back to Mercy's video, if that's all right. Sorry about the little glitch. So Mercy has been also sharing about her heritage, about its value through music, which I think is an incredible way of mixing the heritage, the culture, and the arts sector into responding, into sensitizing about the climate change issues, but also about the values of sites. Thank you.
Urithi wetu, tamaduni wetu. uhalisia wake unadhihirishwa na majengo kale na tamaduni za Waswahili. Staarabu wao kwanza kutokea kusini mwa pwani Afrika Mashariki. Ona ngome kubwa, misikiti mikubwa na kasri zake. Kilwa Kisiwani, Songo Mnara, Sanje ya Kati, Sanje Mojoma, hata Kilwa Kivinje tashuhudia majengo kale, tafurahia na fukwe nzuri za Kilwa. Enda tenda Guru tashuhudie mjusi wa kale, hata na ngoma, mapango kale na ndege wazuri. Shuhudia urithi wetu Kilwa, tamaduni wetu Tanzania, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo. Wana Kilwa, urithi wetu tamaduni wetu, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo. Urithi wetu tamaduni wetu, Wana Kilwa, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo. Karibu TAWA tukutembeze, ushuhudie urithi wa dunia Kilwa. Karibu TAWA tukutembeze, ushuhudie urithi wa dunia Kilwa. Ni urithi wetu, tamaduni wetu Tanzania, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo. Wana Kilwa, urithi wetu, tamaduni wetu, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo. Urithi wetu, tamaduni wetu, Wana Kilwa, tuweze hifadhi kwa utalii na maendeleo.
Thank you, Mercy. Thank you. I'm gonna invite Daniel to share with us his experience as a heritage manager in Nigeria.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Daniel Ishaya from Nigeria. I'm the site manager for DICWA. I work with the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Nigeria. It's a federal government parastatal that, thank you very much. It's a federal government parastatal. And thank you very much. I'm going to speak on the importance of including local and indigenous intangible values in climate change vulnerability assessment, the case of cultural landscape, and Rabies Fort DICWA. Fortunately, after being a site manager, I'm also a chief. Hallelujah. Thank you. I thank God because I was one of the 6 African heritage professionals that were trained in CVI Africa last year. CVI Africa is a values-based climate vulnerability index application on the heritage sites. The Climate Vulnerability Index is a scientific approach of applying a tool of scientific approach on applying climate change vulnerability assessment on heritage sites. Thank you very much. And Sukuru cultural landscape, yeah, thank you. Sukuru cultural landscape, this is an aerial view of Sukuru community. This Sukuru community is here. although not only part of it has been here, but Sukuru Cultural Landscape is the first cultural landscape in Africa. It was declared as a World Heritage Site in 1999. Ribes Fort Dikwa is a national monument. It was declared as national monument in 1959. So I'm going one by one. This is Sukuru Cultural Landscape. Sukuru Cultural Landscape is a living cultural community, meaning there are people living with a complete culture, unadulterated culture. They are living on a hill. It's a hilltop settlement with an elevation about 1,145 meters above sea level, and it covers about 1,040 hectares with buffer zones. Sukuru community, they are very unique people and unique settings. Before the adulteration, before the impact of the climate change affects Sukuru community is 100% eco-friendly community. 100% eco-friendly community. Everything, every building, every homestead in the Sukuru community is built with traditional materials. But with the effect of climate change, I think you can see, come back. There's a conventional building over there. The reason is Sukuru was hit by a mixed climate change and Boko Haram insurgents. I don't know whether some of you have heard of Boko Haram. Okay, Boko Haram have attacked Sukuru community, destroy the villages, destroy the properties, burnt schools, and kill cattle a lot. So people have to flee for a period of 1 year. Nobody was on Hilltop community. Now, when the people had a reactive, they reacted to the Boko Haram, expelled them, go back to their settlement, and then make some strategy for reinforcement. Other people from downhill started coming, trooping up to Sukuru community. Now the small natural resources that they use to build their homesteads is no longer enough for the teeming population of those people that migrated up. So now they have to resort to conventional materials for building, like a corrugated zincs, as we see, and conventional bricks with cement mix, instead of a complete mortar and haze and the straws and some makuba, that is dung hills, cow dung hills. This is the cement that cemented the mortar and the grasses. So it has to resort to that. One good part of Sukuru community, they are always resilient to the effect of climate or in the impact of climate change. One of the things they did was there are two major foundations, Judith Sterner and Nick David. Nick David is a famous archaeologist that stayed on Sukuru cultural landscape for some years. So they had a foundation for, oh my goodness, for afforestation, that is replanting of replaced trees damaged by these forced immigrants into Sukuru community. So they started afforestation programs, and there's one person who was well-to-do and is son of the soil, we call. He belongs to that community. He also founded a foundation for afforestation in order to bring alien species that can also be resistant to the drought. The drought came as a result of the shrinkage of the famous Lake Chad. I don't know that some people here knows about the Lake Chad. So the effect of the climate change on the Lake Chad, anybody here knows about Lake Chad? Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Lake Chad is one of the second largest lake apart from the Lake Victoria in Africa. So it housed about over 10 million people who are deriving their livelihood from the lake chart. But the lake chart started shrinking in 1960s. And in 1973, it shrank a lot. And after 10 years, every 10 years, 1983, there was a drought. The lake continues to shrink. Thank you very much. Okay, let me go to the effect of the shrinkage. Rabies spot is close to Lake Chad. And then cultural heritage. Some species of the plants started dying. That's the reason for the reforestation. And apart from dying, to renovate, Rabies Fort Dikwa is situated in Borno State, in the northeastern part of the country. It's a complete, can you take me to Rabies Fort? It's a complete, yeah, thank you very much. It's a complete earthen structure with azara walls as lintel and domes as a roof. There is no single conventional material. It's a complete 100% eco-friendly settlement. So Rabi stayed there until in 1920, Rabi built this monument in as his main palace in 1893 to 1900. This after Rabi's defeat by the colonial masters, both the English colonial masters and the French colonial masters and the German colonial masters, they divided the place and then. Okay, let me go to my key messages. So they built this German colonial residence. Okay, my key message to the lawmakers and the politicians all over is pardon me, please. Okay. My shout out to the lawmakers and the world leaders at large is that one more reason for the inclusion of the indigenous local knowledge in climate vulnerability assessment on our intangible cultural heritage in many societies and countries is the risks it faces these days of being extinct. Aside the modernization, the globalization, the urbanization, urban and rural developments, the increased rate in climate changes due to droughts, floods, that causes forced migration, as well as damages our heritage properties. All these join forces to put intangible cultural heritage at risk. Such expansions of history, culture, heritage is now increasingly an urgent need for protection and preservation as different risks converge to threaten into our, and to alter not only the form, but also the manner our intangible cultural heritage existed. Thank you very much. Now, in Hausa, I belong to Hausa community, the largest ethnic group in Nigeria. We have three major ethnic groups, Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. Hausa took the half of Nigeria, so I belong to that. And we don't only speak about cultural heritages, we practice it. So I wear Hausa, typical Hausa dressing. Thank you very much. In Hausa, ina kira bisa ga manya na 'yan siyasa da kuma manyan sarakuna da kuma mutane da suke rike da mulkoki a cikin duniya gaba daya da ya kamata mu yi amfani da al'adunmu na gargajiya saboda mu kare su daga shafewa daga fuskan duniya. Abubuwa da yawa sukan fuskanci al'adunmu na gargajiya kama daga gine-gine na zamani zuwa ga abubuwa da suka shafi climate change, that is canjin yanayi kamar su rashin ruwa da rashin da kuma rigiyawa na ruwaye sukan bata mana wurare na tarihi. Ina kira ga manya duka saboda mu sa hannu gaba daya saboda mu gyara gidajen tarihi namu saboda gado domin yaranmu na gaba. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much for sharing with us your thoughts and experience in the first cultural landscape I'm going to invite Ibrahim to the stage, and then I will introduce our two online speakers. I will just ask our speakers to really be short because we don't have time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salma. Okay, my name is Chan Ibrahim. I am director and co-founder of Ecomusée Tata Somba, and is the first ecological museum in West Africa. We start to work on Kutamaku, the land of Batamariba. As you can see, is for both sides from Benin and Togo. It's the same people, but because of colonization, they came and put a false border and say that this is Benin, this is Togo, but it's still the same people. So you can see that it's a very beautiful landscape, and on this landscape you have these houses that we call takienta. Takienta mean house in Batamariba language, and this house is very unique around the world because of the form, the materials, and the connection between nature, between universe, between human, between animals, between everything around the world is make these houses very special around the world. And now it's going to disappear. Why? Because of some parts of climate change. There is no any more materials to have a new building of these traditional houses. And we just start to work on it and firstly make a map. We map every houses who is in this landscape to know how many today we have still on this site, and also map the where the place where we can still find the materials to build these houses, but also map the key people who still have knowledge to build these houses. So this work, we done it with our volunteers, and then we bring some of this knowledge in the school to speak about how this community use materials, use everything to build this kind of house with children and youth. And we also try to create the school that we call School of Transmission Knowledge. And we bring together, as you can see, old people and youth people to rebuild this house, because we know where we can still find some of materials, and we know also who can build the houses. So we bring them together to make a workshop. But as the youth need dance, music, and groove, we design this school with music, with singing, dancing, to call the youth to join old people to learn about how they can build these houses, because there is no university, there is no school where they can go to learn it. You know, they have to learn it by practice, and we organize this workshop. And our focus is about women, because they still have a knowledge to build it. And it's possible to use their knowledge to give them resources, you know, because they know how to use this kind of materials to cover the house. So we can learn from them, and has some kind of ecological materials that modern architecture can use to have a more ecological houses. And also, yes, we have a video. You can see our work on this site, yes.
So now we will have our online speakers joining us. Thank you very much, Bugumba and Dr. Haruna, for being here with us today. I'm going to give the space to Bugumba Revocato, who's the principal conservator of antiquities working with the National Museum of Tanzania based in Dar es Salaam. He studied heritage management from Athens University of Economics, and he has been a site manager for the ruins of Kilwa Kiswani and the ruins of Sangomnara before Mercy for 13 years. Bugumba, could you share with us your main ideas and messages to policymakers in COP27? Thank you very much.
Mine are just a few words that, as we know that climate change is really impacting us, and it's not a thing that is just impacting one country, but it impacts all the heritages and many countries. And our success in combating cultural heritage and combating climate change, it means we need to have a balanced package of decisions and needs of all stakeholders and policymakers. As we know, heritage protection and management immensely requires sustainable policies that are integrated in our management and development plans. Hence, climate resilience policies for sustainability of our landscape, our heritage requires our cooperative, or I could say that we need a unit, and we need it to do it at the early stage, and it means that as we do that, it's a reflection on how that we value our heritage. From what I learned from CVI process, that this process needs what we could say is multidisciplinary. It's multidisciplinary in nature, that we need to do it to include many disciplines. We learned that in our process we included people from the management, some of the policymakers, academics, and some of the local communities. So it's an integrated approach that we need to put it into our policy. In order to combat this climate change, we need to learn from the CVI process that we should include as many stakeholders as many as possible. Also, we learned from this that the process needs it could be used in a wider context, not only for the world sites, but we could use it in many, even in all cultural heritage sites. Particularly, we learned that when we assess the values, sometimes we skip values when we nominate sites in the world heritage. For instance, the Kilwa Kiswani, some of values we found that we did include them in the statement of outstanding universal values. So I think that our learning, our approach should also consider the CVI approach that includes a lot of value that touches from social, economics, and cultural values. And the other things that consider or using the local knowledge and experiences. Through CVI, we learned about how we could use the local community to understand some of the issues, and the engagement of them was very real important. So for me and to other policymakers, that I think that climate change should be done globally. It should not be just a local thing, but it should go through local, regional, and global, because we sometimes we lack some skills, maybe capacities. We need to have knowledge from other people who have that capacities. For instance, when we were learning about Kilwa, we had to use knowledge from scholars, from universities who have knowledges about those scientific knowledge about climate change. And when we incorporate those scientific means knowledge and other things, I think it's a good approach that will assist us in combating this climate change. But also we learned that the policymakers, for instance, in our countries, if you read the strategic plan, doesn't consider actually heritage. It includes just tourism and natural resources, but heritage has not taken into consideration as an important thing. But what we know that by protecting heritage, we protect even the nature. Like you saw there at the presentation by Mercy, by protecting the ruins, we managed to protect also the natural forest, the mangroves and the others. So when we protect the heritage, it also assists in protecting other heritage, like a natural heritage.
Thank you.
Also,
just in relation to time, could you share with us your key message for policymakers? If it's one sentence, in one sentence.
in one sentence,
Yes.
yes, that it is high time that heritage, cultural heritage, should be part and parcel of our planning and all strategic plans in the nation, because when we protect our heritage, we protect also other values. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bugumba. Thank you. We really have nearly no time, actually. I'm gonna present Dr. Haruna Audu Omar, who's a university lecturer, Federal University of Kashmir. He works in geography, climatology, and had a PhD in climatology. And he has been working in the Sukur cultural landscape. Could you please briefly share with us your main recommendations for policymakers from your perspective as a heritage researcher? Thank you very much. We can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, my job is made simple because Sukur, my brother Simon have talked so much about the description of Sukur. Just the lesson learned during the CVI workshop, which was the first in Africa. We were able to, when you talk about climate, it has many elements. So during the workshop, which comprises the local community, people from academia, multidisciplinary, we came together with the knowledge of the people in that location. We are able to bring out 3 stressors that were affecting the people of Sukur and then the World Heritage Sites. They are drought and then the storm intensity. So during the workshop, we were able to find out that those are the major stressors. They are 3, but those 2 were the most hit. From the pictures shared by Daniel, we can see how the community was ravaged by flooding, that is in this year 2021, which is as a result of the heavy downpour intensity of rainfall that occur in such area. So during the workshop, because of the people, the local community that are there, we have the knowledge, they know how they feel. They know they can explain what climate change is about from their own perspective. They were able to tell us that there are certain things that were happening in those days, but this time around, it's not what they are doing. As a result of the drought, they have to look for a particular crop that they will plant in their area so that a short life crop instead of the one that takes longer period to grow. So these are the knowledge that they brought, not knowing that is the effect of climate change, which is drought. Also, the rainfall intensity from the picture, we saw the destruction of farmland in that community and also destruction of houses in that community. These are some of the lessons learned during the CVI workshop. Also, with this approach, if other sectors like agriculture, transport technology will take the approach of the CVI, where people from the local community, if it is agriculture, get the farmers into the workshop. Not that they will stay away from the workshop, then you give them the information. Once they are part of it, they will take the message, just like what the people of Sukul are doing. Now, after the workshop, there are some adaptive measures which was taken by them. Also, transport sectors, bring the people in the transport sector into the workshop, into a training, so that once they get the knowledge, they will be able to put it into practice. My recommendation, there is need for further CVI to have all participants, because the CVI that we have due to the effect of COVID-19, most of the trainers were on, training was online. But in the situation where people will come together, the knowledge impacted will be high. Also, in applying the CVI in other sectors, holistic approach, just like what we did in the World Cultural Heritage Site, the CVI of Sukul. Let all other people, let's bring all people of different discipline, where you have architects, where you have agriculturists, where you have people from the academia, where you have the market women, where we have even the residents, the local people. So when they come together, get to understand it better. Also,
Haruna, thank you very much. I think, can you give us one last message in one sentence? Because we're really, really short of time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my message here is, let there be follow-up, just like what we, from those pictures you see on the Sukul was a follow-up after the CVI workshop in 2021. Most of the damages in 2022 were captured. Also, government should pay more attention to cultural heritage sites, not only to the people, what is happening to the people, but also to the World Heritage Site, because that is what is keeping them stay in that particular location.
Thank you very much, Haruna, about your support and for sharing your thoughts about the importance of local knowledge in planning climate adaptation. I just, before putting the cartoons on the screen, I just would like to ask Ibrahim to share with us his key message, because he didn't do it. And also I will share with you my key message for policymakers. For me, knowledge infrastructure, because I've heard in many indigenous discussions today, the capacity is not maybe the best word to talk about infrastructure of knowledge. So knowledge infrastructure building and trainings for heritage managers, including stakeholder mapping and involvement of scientifics, local communities and authorities concerning integrated vulnerability assessments, permits the sensitization of heritage managers and professionals to the importance of local values and the complexity of assessing the climate change vulnerability of values in comparison to the vulnerability of assets. بناء البنية التحتية للمعرفة والدورات التدريبية لمديري التراث بما في ذلك رسم خرائط أصحاب المصلحة وإشراك العلماء والمجتمعات المحلية والسلطات فيما يتعلق بتقييمات القابلية للتأثرات بالمناخ المتكاملة. تسمح بتوعية مديري التراث والمهنيين بأهمية القيم المحلية وتعقيد تقييم قابلية تأثر القيم بتغير المناخ بالمقارنة مع القابلية للتأثرات للتراث المادي.
Thank you so much. Humanity chance to mitigate, adapt, and survive in the face of global warming is largely in the hand of ingenious African people. Approach to solution this planetary crisis must no longer allow themselves to be ignored. Yolo nyoro leleng ke andulinya tomda ke sangato we so source africaina nyima tomda to yesi tika tihigi timbi si tihigi langhele na kokaldo poesi tana yulkweta sosi ewe putne bihekuta. Thank you so much.
I just would like your help today in order to choose two of the best cartoons that our cartoonist has been doing to this session. Rohan, I hope you had a nice time with us.
I did. The speakers were very passionate, especially the Tanzanian presentation full of music and dance. Thanks so much. I'll keep this short. I'll also read the captions out for the sake of your convenience. Here's the first one. So where are the heritage monuments we are teaming up to design climate resilience strategies for? All around you. That's pointing towards all the natural heritage surrounding the people in the cartoon. Here's the second one. Trust natural heritage to come to the rescue of historical heritage even before the funds do. Look closely into the cracks and you'll find both colonialism and climate change hidden. That's the reference from the Kilwa Kiswani video. And the final one, something that wasn't spoken about much, but was referenced, especially when the last speaker spoke about heritage protection. So here's the deal. The West returns our looted artifacts and heritage, and in turn takes back cultural enrichment free of charge. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you very much. We can try to do a little vote. So I'm gonna say, so who's like the first cartoon? Can you just put your hands up? The second cartoon, the third cartoon, and the fourth cartoon. So I think the second and the third one are our audience favorites. Thank you, Rohan, for your time and for sharing with us your amazing skill. Thank you very much. I just would like to hold hand with all the people I came here with to the COP. It has been, sorry.
It's okay, we love you.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Salma. Thank you. It was very hard to be here in the beginning, and we didn't have a resource to be here today. It is very important for us to bring African voice. It's African COP. We can't do it without African people. You know, we would like to be a lot of like this, but we don't have resources. We already give our resources to our community to work, but we don't have possibility to show it, to share it, to bring it around the world. And thank to Salma, she make a crowdfunding for us, and now we are here to share our voice. Thank you so much, and thank you. Yeah.
Actually, we really appreciate you for coming, and I really appreciate Salma. She has been doing very well. She's a very good coordinator. She helped us. Some of us were just in our halls. She brought us out of our house, and she's brought us here. This is a very great achievement for me to be here at this COP. Thank you very much. Salma, thank you.
But also we thank you, Andrew Pott, who is a coordinator of Climate Heritage Network. We thank you, Andrew, for everything. We thank also CVI team, William, Megar, Scott, and everyone for joining us today. Thank you much.
Thank you for the Climate Heritage Network, for Julie's Bicycle, for all who supported us financially, mentally, emotionally to be here. We appreciate your time and your thoughts, and we are here with our hearts, and we hope that culture, heritage, arts will be much more present in the climate change discourse in the future. And we have some material here about that Simon brought. If you want to learn more about his work in Uganda, please take a flyer.
Feel free to take a copy. I carry these materials for you. Thank you so much.